Okay, we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the 1 p.m. webinar for levels 4 and 5. Welcome, everyone. So some of you may remember me from other webinars. My name is Emily. I am a teacher at Milan Meravigli in the center of Milan. And I'm from the UK originally, from the middle of England. So when you join us, please do introduce yourself in the comments, your name and where you are at the moment, and anything else that you want to say. Of course, we always like to hear from you, and just so you know, be involved in the activities as much as you can, because this is where you get your practice in. Okay, so I will change the screen. So today we are talking about a night at the cinema. So of course, that is not something that we have properly at the moment. None of us can visit a cinema, which is a shame. I really miss the cinema. It is one of the things that I miss the most at the moment. However, we can still practice the vocabulary to talk about different types of film, different activities that you might do at the cinema, or things that you might want to eat or drink, for example. Because this is not true just when you go to the cinema, um, go go and have that experience, but some of it you can transfer to your home experience. I think a lot of people are watching films still, and they are thinking about how to make that experience more like the cinema. Um, if you like me miss going out and seeing a film on a big screen, there maybe are things to do to replicate, to imagine that experience. So I will also say before we start properly, StreamYard is having some problems today technically. So if the slides disappear or if you can't hear me, then I apologize, and we will try to fix them as soon as we can. So, as I said, some of this vocabulary maybe seems less relevant because we are not going physically to the cinema, but we can still transfer some of it. So we are talking about going to the movie theatre and buying tickets and food and drinks. So maybe the food and drinks part is something that you can have at home as well, depending on what you like or what you want to buy. And talking about movies. Everyone likes talking about movies, I think. Even if you don't like them, you can often talk about them. So we will have a good conversation about that, I hope. So please do get involved. So one thing to mention here, so cinema is more common in British English, and theatre like this is more American, because I am a British person, so when I say theatre, I mean a place where I go and see drama. I go and see a live performance, rather than a film. So theatre is the more American word. So of course you can use whatever you prefer there. Okay, so I've just written that in the comments for you. So I see we do have 2 people with us now, so please do introduce yourselves. And also, this is an activity where we like some participation. So we want to match the genres, and the genre is just a word for type, a type of film. Genre we use for creative things. So for films, TV, for books, and we use the French pronunciation there as well, in general, genre. Okay, so we want to match the genres to the pictures. So please do write the letter and the word that you think that is. So I will read for the pronunciation. We have comedy, horror, action, cartoon, documentary, drama, science fiction, and romance. So what do you think the pictures are? And with the pronunciation, just be really careful with science, because that C is silent there, so science fiction. And science fiction, maybe I will explain that one, is something that is kind of based on a real situation, based on possible science, but is set in a future world. It's about like a future or a distant world, but is maybe based in some kind of reality. You know, it is maybe recognizable in some ways, even if it is imaginative. Whereas we also have fantasy, which is more of the imagination. There may be animals or creatures that do not exist in the real world in fantasy. And science fiction, more commonly we use a short form, we say sci-fi, sci-fi. So, and fiction alone, you may see, fiction just means a story. So in books, we often talk about fiction and non-fiction. So fiction is a created story, and non-fiction is facts. It's real things. So science fiction just means an invented story based on science or inspired by science. So, okay, I don't have any answers yet, so I will go ahead and give the first one. So A, I think, is cartoon, which is what it is. So cartoon, sometimes we also talk about animation, or an animated film, which just means it is not using real actors. It is created on a computer or through artwork. Whereas cartoons often are shorter, they are more comic. Animation is, I would say, is the kind of wider genre. It doesn't have to be for children. It can be about any subject at all. So, so Pixar, for example, we probably say, oh, animated films rather than cartoons. Okay. So B is a great picture, I think. So B, we have action. And I would say this is a particular type of action film. This looks like a superhero film to me. Maybe Marvel films are a kind of category in themselves now because there are so many of them and they're often so recognizable. Whereas action films is more general. It can be superheroes, it can be maybe more based in reality. It's a very general phrase. Now, C is a very popular kind of film. C, we have comedy. Of course, this is a very physical type of comedy in the picture, but it can have different types, of course. I think for me, I prefer comedy through words rather than physical gestures. But physical gestures can be funny in the right amount, I think, in the right quantity. So I am going through the answers here, but if you know them, please don't hesitate to give me what you think they are. So D, let's move on there. So D, we have romance, or a romantic film. We often do use the adjectives for a lot of these. So as I said, an animated film, romantic film. Whereas something like comedy, we probably don't use the adjective. We just say a comedy or a comedy film. It's just one of those strange things where, sometimes we change the word, sometimes we don't change the word. Okay, so romance films. I think I'm trying to identify the film, but I can't. I think a lot of romance films look similar in the pictures. So the next one we have is science fiction. So you can see it's maybe about different worlds, about different places, related to science and technology as well. And the next one, this is quite a famous image. I think this is horror, of course. Horror film. Yeah. And G, if we go to that, so you have a documentary. So a documentary is like non-fiction for books. Not documentary is a film about facts. It's telling us a true story or talking about the facts of an event or maybe of a person's life. There are some good ones out there. I don't often watch documentaries, so I often want um, something that is not real, some kind of film to escape reality. But a really good documentary can stay with you for a long time afterwards. You remember it for a long time. So that means that H, the final one, is just a drama. So that's a very general word. We can often use other genres with drama to be more specific. So a comedy drama, for example, we often talk about. Um, romantic drama, of course, something like Titanic would be a romantic drama because it's not just about the romance. It's using romance as a way to tell a dramatic story. We do even talk about docudramas, like documentary and drama, because sometimes filmmakers use actors to help them to tell a story, particularly about a person. I think there was a docudrama about Anne Frank, for example. So it was all about the facts of her life, but they used people to help reconstruct scenes from her life to help tell the story more in a more engaging way. So that we call a docudrama. Of course, there is also historical. So, a historical romance, for example, is very common, or a historical drama maybe is a story that is based in history. Of course, these are not all of the genres that exist, but these are probably the most common ones. the ones you are most likely to talk about. So, which genre is your favorite? So, this is a question for anyone watching. So, I think for me, I would say drama is my favorite. Whether that is a comedy drama, or something that is less funny. I think, yeah, dramas are what I look for most of the time. But comedy is good. I also quite like comedy horror films, which manage to be funny and scary at the same time. Something like Mel Brooks films, or in the 1930s, there were a lot of comedy horror films that you don't know whether you are scared or very amused. Okay, so I will move on now, but if anyone has any comments, please let me know. So now we will see some pictures from movies, and I would like you to tell me what genre they are. Okay, so here is our first one. So of course, Harry Potter, a very popular series of films. It's amazing to think that they finished maybe 10 years ago now, something like that. It's crazy. So that genre, I would say that it's a funny one. It's probably closest to action, maybe, or something like that. Really, that one is fantasy because it's about magic, and it's not really based on facts or science, but it is about magic. So we would say fantasy, I think, for that one. But I think action could maybe work for some of them as well. I actually don't know the Harry Potter films all that well. I was never a big fan of them, but there is some good acting in them. So, what about this next one? Again, I haven't seen this film, How to Train Your Dragon, but I hear good things about it. I think a lot of children and families enjoy this. So if anyone is looking for things to watch as a family, this is probably a good one to choose. So this is what I would call an animated film rather than a cartoon. So cartoon, animation, it is one of those. I think animated films at the moment are really interesting and really good. I think there is one coming out this year, I think, called Soul or something like that. That is about it's about talking to children about death or something like that, and it sounds very very interesting. I think Pixar does some good work with children and family films, especially in animation. So Titanic, you might remember I talked about Titanic a moment ago when I talked about romance. So I would maybe bring two categories together for Titanic, maybe either romantic drama or historical drama or historical romance even. It's kind of three genres together. They all go together quite well. Now, yeah, Titanic may be also a good film to watch at the moment because it's very long. We have the time to watch longer films at the moment. If anyone is watching, do you like Titanic? Have you seen this movie? I have seen it, but not recently. I I think Leonardo DiCaprio has done better films, and Kate Winslet actually. I think they are better actors now, but it is of course an interesting one. Now, this is another one that I have not watched, but what genre is this? So I think this this is about a killer whale or an orca, and I think this is a documentary. Often, things about animals are documentaries. And I know a lot of people enjoy animal documentaries, especially on TV, with David Attenborough or someone like that. As I said, I have not seen this film, but I can imagine it has some amazing views, amazing pictures of the orca. Another one. This is by the same director as Titanic. I think this is 10 years after Titanic, 15 years. But both very popular films. And this one is Avatar. So if anyone is watching, please let me know what genre you think this is. I think this is a very good poster. You get a sense of the the world through the picture quite well. I would say this is science fiction or fantasy. Sometimes they can be quite similar, because it's maybe set in the future. It's about a future world or our world in the future. Yeah, another very long film. I think you could spend a lot of time during this lockdown watching James Cameron films. But I will not be doing that myself. I think I'm not a big fan. Now, The Hangover. So this one is interesting because Todd Phillips, the director, also made Joker. It's very, very strange that he went from this film, and you can see this is a comedy, and a hangover, for anyone who is not sure, is the day after you drink a lot. So it's the feeling, both physically and emotionally, that you have after you drink too much. That day after a wild drinking night. So he goes from the comedy of The Hangover to kind of a drama film with Joker that won a lot of awards. So it's very interesting to see how directors change genre sometimes, or how they keep some elements of their previous films. Uh, yeah, but I have not actually seen The Hangover. Again, I think some people love it and some people hate it. And I think I probably would hate it because it's that doesn't look like my kind of comedy. I think with comedy, you can often guess if you will enjoy something or not, if you know your sense of humor very well. So I think maybe we have one more. This is The Exorcist. So this one is on my list to watch. I intend to watch this one, The Exorcist. Of course, an older film there. And this one is a very famous horror film. And I think even people who love horror and who are not scared easily are scared by this film. I think it's very, very scary. And I think the poster again, it looks very scary, doesn't it? A lot of black, a lot of dark colors. You can often guess or estimate what genre something will be from a poster. Okay, so I think those are all some examples, and we will move on. Oh no, actually we have another one before we do. And this again is a James Cameron film. Funny, there are lots of James Camerons. So this is Terminator 3, very specific. I don't know if 3 was the final one. I think there are only 3 Terminator films. But this one I think is an action film. So yeah, maybe related to science fiction as well. If it is about inventions, often things with robots, with things that people with machines are often science fiction related because it's about how they will change the future, how they change society. Yeah, so lots of different examples there from the last, I think, the last 40 years. Some of them are older films. I think The Exorcist is from the 1970s, but most of them are more recent. Some of them maybe ones to look at when we have some time. Now this is a question I always find very difficult. So what's your favorite movie and what genre is it? Yeah. See, I never have one favorite movie. I maybe have 4 or 5, and it depends how recently I saw them, or how I feel on a certain day, which one is my complete favorite. So please, in the comments, if anyone does have a favorite movie, tell me what that is and what genre it is. I think at the moment, because I watched it again recently, my favorite movie is Singing in the Rain, which some of you may know. It's a musical, which is not a genre on this list, but of course, a musical is a movie with a lot of songs where the music is really, really important to the story and to the way that they tell the story. Um, I guess I guess it's almost also a romance, but that's not really my favorite part of it. So I just call it a musical, Singing in the Rain. Um, I think musicals are very good to watch in this period because even if the story is maybe more difficult, then the music always makes you feel good. And there is always a connection between you and the film with music, I think, and with songs. Especially if it's a musical you know quite well, then you know when the songs are coming. Maybe you know the words, or you know the music at least. So there is that real easy connection. It feels very easy to watch, I think. But again, if anyone does want to give a favorite movie, then please do. Also be aware, so here we have the American spelling favourite. So in British English, then we include a U in the spelling, and in US English, there is no U, just favourite. And the pronunciation as well, we often don't even pronounce that O in the middle, we just say favourite, because it's much quicker, it's faster to say. But you can, of course, say favourite as well with 3 sounds. It maybe depends on the context, on the individual. Okay, so we will move away from movies now. Now here is a mini quiz. So just some questions, maybe more about the cinema experience. So of course, this is maybe something to remember for after the lockdown rather than things you can use immediately. So the first question, so what are film times called? So when you search maybe on the computer, on Google for film times, if you want to choose in advance when you are going to the cinema, what are they called? You can see an example here, but I know it's quite small. The example is not too important. So instead of saying film times, we usually say show times or showings. Sometimes also the word screenings. You can say, the 6 o'clock showtime or the 6 o'clock screening, to be specific about what time you want to see a particular film. Because often, then there is more than one available time for a film, especially if it's very popular. So maybe you need to say not only the day, but also the hour that you want to visit the cinema. You want to see that particular film. So here it's not obvious, but at I think there is more than one choice. So there is 3:15 p.m. or there is 6:45. So you would say the 3:15 showing or the 3:15 screening to say which one that you want to do. So another question. So we have mentioned already some US, UK differences. This is also true for the word for film. So film is more British or maybe more international, more European. Whereas in the US, they say, I think most of you will know this, they say a movie. So again, you can say whatever you prefer. I think most of the time I say a film, but occasionally I say a movie. Maybe if it's an American, maybe a blockbuster, something that is maybe not so artistic, something that is very, that doesn't have a great story, in my opinion, I might say a movie. Sometimes you also hear the word picture as well. This is usually by older people. This is not so common, but you can also say there is a picture to mean a film or a movie. However, as I said, that is not so common. It's more with maybe older generations. Okay, so some time practice. So I will give you a few minutes to think about this, because even if no one is watching now, maybe you will see this later. So what time is it on the clock? So there are a couple of ways to say this. So you can either just read the numbers, the two numbers, you can just say 10:45. And this is very common on things like timetables. If you read timetables, we usually just read the numbers. You say 10:45, just like I said before, 3:15, 6:45. Or you could also say here, 11:15. It depends on how you want to read it. So it's absolutely fine if you want to just say 10:45. So I know that that can be easier. Then you don't have to imagine it on an analog clock, but it is your choice. And the next one, there is only really one way to say this, although there is a short form as well. So usually we would say 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. Or maybe if you are talking to your friends, if you want to speak very, very quickly, you could just say 8. It's 8. I want to see the screening at 8. But if you think there is any uncertainty in the context or in the conversation, better to say 8 o'clock. And a very similar time here. So just like the first example, we have two ways to say this. You can just read the numbers, or you can think of what it is on a physical clock, on an analog clock. So that would be 8:30 or 8:30. And the pronunciation there, so half or half, both fine there. But either way, we don't really say the L. The L is silent, so half. And the same with past. You know, I say past, other people maybe say past, but that's more kind of the south of England. I think past is more common. So half past in my accent, but both of those words change depending on your area, your region. Okay, so you will be pleased to know that we can stop talking about time now. Now we have two ways to pay, two methods of paying for the cinema. So we have either using physical money, or we have the other way. So physical money, we usually say cash. I think at the moment, a lot of places don't accept cash because it's harder to clean things, I think. You could also use the name of the currency, so euros, dollars, pounds, etc. I think more often though, people use a card. And you can be more specific and you can specify a credit card, maybe a debit card. So a debit card is when there is a limited amount of money on the card and you cannot spend more than that. And a credit card, you can spend what you want and you pay later. So I think a debit card is what in Italy or other countries people call bank cards, but I am not completely sure of that. Okay, so these are useful things to remember when you are organizing a cinema trip, when you are thinking about maybe what time you want to go and how you want to pay for the cinema. Okay, I think I will skip that. So here is an example conversation. So I will imagine that I am two people at this point, and I am both the attendant and the customer. So, hello, how can I help you? Hi, can I please have 2 tickets for Journey Home? Sure. Which showing? 7:30, please. Okay. Are you paying with cash or card? I'm paying with card. Here you are. Enjoy the show. Okay, so this is an example conversation with an attendant and a customer. So someone who works at the cinema and someone who wants to see a film there. Okay, so just some useful phrases here. So you can ask saying, can I please? Something like that. And here the preposition we have is, are you paying with cash or card? So I'm paying with card is fine. You can also say by card as well. So with or by there. And finally, here you are is quite a good phrase if you don't know it already. So here you are, a phrase to use when you give something to someone. So maybe the attendant is giving the customer the tickets and they say, here you are. Okay, and enjoy the show, of course, is a nice way to end the conversation there. Probably the customer says thank you after that. Okay, we'll skip that. So just to finish, maybe for the last few minutes, now we are talking about snacks. For some people, this is the best part of going to the cinema, people's favorite part. For me, I am not very interested in snacks at the cinema. Maybe if it's a very loud film, but I prefer to concentrate without distractions in general. But these are some great snacks. So we have popcorn, we have soda or pop, sweets, candy, and chocolate bar. So again, there are some US, UK differences in these phrases. So soda is more American, pop, I would say more British. But I wouldn't really use either of those. I would say, personally, I would say fizzy drinks. Fizzy drinks. Or you can be more specific. You know, you can say Coke, Coca-Cola, lemonade. I would probably do that rather than say soda or pop. Also, sweets is the British word and candy is American. And yeah, this again is, I think this is a difference with countable, uncountable. I think sweets are countable in British English, but candy is probably less countable. We don't really say candies. It's always the singular there. So let's match the answers then. So A, of course, is soda or pop, or as I said, you could also use the phrase fizzy drinks. The object, to talk about the size, we could say this is a can. This is a can of Coke, for example. Can of soda, a can of pop. It's to give the quantity. This blue metal container for the drink we call a can. So B, This is many people's favorite, popcorn. Of course, the question for popcorn is always sweet or salty. Do you prefer sweet or salty popcorn? I prefer salted popcorn myself. But yeah, I think people can be very fixed in their opinions about this. The next one, this sounds very loud for a cinema with the container with the wrapping. That is chocolate bar. So please remove any metal from chocolate before you watch a film in the cinema, because people don't want to hear that when they watch a film. They want to hear the film. And D, of course, that means D is sweets or candy. I think that's probably the best one, as long as you don't have a very loud plastic bag. That's the problem there. Okay, so these are all Sun snacks. So I don't have any viewers at this point, but what snacks do you like to eat at the cinema? As I said, I don't really like snacks at the cinema. This picture is ridiculous. It's too loud. It's too loud. Maybe a drink, sometimes a can of something or a bottle of water or something like that, but not really loud food. There are crisps in the picture. It's too much. It's not what people want to hear if they sit near you, I think. Or maybe I am just yeah, maybe I have a different idea of the cinema experience to other people. Okay, so we are almost at the end. I think a lot of these adjectives I've talked about already. So some adjectives to describe a film. We have scary, funny, exciting, boring, surprising, sad, and so-so. Okay, so these are for maybe different genres. Probably a horror film is scary, and maybe a comedy is more funny. So funny is something that makes you laugh. Boring, maybe if you fall asleep in the film, it is boring. I think for me, it's very easy for documentaries to be boring. Sad, yeah, maybe romantic films or tragedy can be sad. And so-so, it's maybe something very average. It's not something you remember, but it was fine when you watched the film. Okay, so I'm sorry, I went very quickly through those at the end. So I will stop there. So if anyone does watch this later, I hope you enjoy that. I didn't have any participation, which is disappointing, but maybe this is a busy hour for people. So I will finish there. Thank you for watching, everyone.